There's a really strange thing happening in online book spaces right now. BookTube, BookTok, so on. No, scrap that. Actually, no, that's not true. There are a lot of strange things happening online right now across every community, but we're going to keep it focused on books because hi. But this is the strangest one. And I've never truly understood this. Is how many people seem determined to form an opinion about something before they've actually experienced it. I was watching a video by Kristin from I always get her channel wrong. Nonsense Free Kristin recently. I'll link to her and I'll tag her because her videos are genuinely brilliant. She talked about skimming culture, skipping culture, people only reading half an article, watching 30 seconds of something and jumping to a comment and acting like they've consumed the whole thing. And honestly, she's right. Because you do notice it. I see it. A lot of people see it. I see it in my comments. I see it in interactions. But you see it in reading. You see it in social media. You see it in YouTube and Substack. You see it pretty much in any online space where human beings gather and immediately begin shouting at each other. What's interesting is that I made a video about something similar a while ago. Don't worry, I'm not a wise digital philosopher sitting on a mountain handing down digital advice. I'm a guy who talks about books while surrounded by enough physical media to survive a small apocalypse. But after creating content online for 20 years, over 20 years, you start seeing patterns, and the patterns are getting worse. And one pattern I've noticed recently is that people often decide what your argument is before you've even made it. Sometimes before they've even clicked. They've seen a thumbnail, they've seen a title. Maybe they read a comment from someone else. Suddenly they're responding to a version of your video that only exists inside their heads. It's interesting and drives me absolutely mad because you'll get comments arguing against points you never made. You get comments explaining things that you literally explained in the video. You get comments correcting arguments that do not exist. Sometimes you even get comments attacking a position that you explicitly disagree with, but people have already made up their mind who you are. My favourite ones are when someone leaves a long angry comment, clearly convinced they've caught me in some kind of intellectual trap. And all I think is, dude, if you watched another 4 minutes 22 seconds of that video, we would be agreeing with each other. Here's a timestamp. The answer is literally in the video. It's not hidden. It's not buried in a secret members-only section. It's not encoded in ancient ruins, where Lara Croft has to find it and probably prevent the end of the world. It's right there in front of you if you had just watched for a few more minutes. You just left before you got there. And that's the thing that fascinates me, because videos have structure, or at least mine do. Most people's do. You start with an idea, you examine the idea, you challenge the idea, you add context, you explore different angles. Then eventually you arrive at a conclusion. That's how conversation works. That's how essays work. That's how blog posts, that's how it should work. Imagine reading the first chapter of a mystery novel and then immediately announcing you know who the murderer is. Then getting angry when the book turns out to be about something else entirely. That's effectively what we're doing online. We've become so focused on immediate reaction that we forgot interaction. And I think that part of this comes from the same thing Kristin was talking about. Skimming, skipping, scanning, reading dialogue only, watching videos at double speed, listening to audiobooks at double speed, jumping to summaries, looking for highlights, looking for quotes, looking for moments, looking for affirmation almost. Anything except actually engaging with the thing itself, because engagement takes time. And time is one of those things modern platforms seem determined to convince us we don't have. Everything is now. Everything's immediate. Everything is urgent. Everything wants a reaction, and reactions are easy. Thinking is harder. Sitting with an idea is harder. Allowing someone to finish their thoughts is harder. And honestly, I think we've accidentally trained ourselves out of patience. Not completely, but just enough that it shows. I noticed it in book discussions all the time. People asking questions that were answered in the chapter they skimmed over or skipped. People criticising books they haven't finished. People reviewing books based on reviews of books. People arguing about stories they've only experienced through TikTok clips and Goodreads discourse. At some point, the conversation stopped being about the thing. The conversation became about everybody else's reaction to the thing. And that's a very different experience. It's like standing outside a restaurant reading a review and arguing about the food without ever actually going inside the restaurant. Eventually, you're not discussing the meal anymore. You're discussing everybody else's opinion about the meal. And somewhere along the way, the actual meal just disappears. It's unimportant. The weirdest part is that people admit it. I've had people genuinely tell me they came to my video specifically because they were angry. Not because they disagreed, not because they were curious, because they just wanted to hear another person's. Nothing to do with that. Just because they wanted to be angry. They wanted to rage. And that's such a foreign concept to me. Because if I see a video I know I'm going to hate, I simply don't watch it. I know. Revolutionary concept. I'm available for TED Talks. No, I hate TED Talks. I will never watch a TED Talk, and I will never watch a reading vlog. Slow motion footage of you making coffee is kind of repetitive. But apparently some people wake up, see a title, invent an argument, watch enough to confirm the argument they've already invented, and then spend 20 minutes writing a comment. In that 20 minutes, you could have actually watched the goddamn video. Engaged some brain cells. And it's exhausting. It feels exhausting. Life is difficult enough already. Why manufacture extra frustration as a hobby? I think we're seeing a culture that's increasingly values a reaction over interaction, response over understanding, hot takes over conversation. Everything's a meme. Everything's a quote. Everything is an endless cycle of repetitive noise. It's a hot take. And when you spend enough time online, that starts bleeding into everything else. Books, articles, videos, podcasts, discussions, friendships, everything. We've become so accustomed to reacting that we're forgetting how to listen. And maybe that's why my comments section and other people's comment sections genuinely feel strange. Because sometimes you're not talking to somebody who's watched your video. You're talking to someone who watched the version of the video they've created in their own head. They already have an opinion. And those are two massively different things. And the irony is most creators aren't asking for agreement. I'm certainly not. Disagree with me. That's fine. Some of my favourite conversations have come from disagreement. But disagree with what I actually said, not the imaginary version. And that goes to every creator on the internet. Disagree with what they actually say, and in that 20 minutes you spent writing an essay in the comments. You could have actually just watched the goddamn video. It's not that difficult. Just hit play and listen. At least give me and others the courtesy of finishing a sentence before you tell me why we're wrong. Because who knows? If you stay until the end, you might actually discover we agree more than either of us expected. I'm Darv James. This was this episode. If you like, sub, tell me what you think in the comments below. And remember, if you want to support this channel, check out Patreon and channel memberships. We have a podcast and early access, and some extra stuff too, as well as the Exploring series, which I'm genuinely really proud of. Talk to you later.